All right, and welcome to another episode of Butler's Babble. We're glad that you've came back and checked out what we got going for you here today. Today we have an awesome special guest for you today. We have Charles coming on here, but just before we bring Charles on, I just want to do the normal housekeeping that we do every week. Just remember that we are coming to you live through StreamYard, and so because it's a third party, if you want to be known of when you're making comments and questions there, who you are, please go to streamyard.com/Facebook and give them permission to use your name. That way I'll see who your questions are. I'll be watching it on Facebook here and on YouTube here at the same time, so I will notice there. But if I want to bring your question up, this way we know who you are and everybody can see who is asking the question or making the comment. It doesn't spam you or anything. It's just to give them permission. Other than that, I'm going to bring on our guest because we got a long story here. I know with the two of us could probably talk for over an hour on this, but we're going to try and keep it to an hour for you. We have Charles coming on. He's an author. He's a lifelong survivor of multiple different traumas, and he's also a person hopefully is going to inspire you to show you that he is proof that you can overcome the worst life has to offer you and still turn things around and now support other people and show them the right way so that they can be better people and have a better life too. He's been through a lot. He's going to come on here and tell us all about it. I'm grateful that he's going to do that. So Charles, why don't you come on and welcome to the show.
Hey, John, it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
No, I'm glad we were able to get you on here. We met a couple months ago, or about a month or two ago, on a different podcasting thing that we started talking back and forth, and then we exchanged emails. We had a little interview about a week ago just to see how things are going to play out, and I'm glad that we were able to find a time to get you on because I know you can inspire a lot of people, and I'm glad to have you on the show. So why don't you give us a little bit of history on you? Well, like every show, we always like to get to know who the person is. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing, where you're born, your parents, your siblings, anything like that. Before we get into anything else, just tell us who you are, basically.
All right. Well, thank you for that introduction, really. A little bit about who I am. I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, more or less, which got yanked out when I was 3 years old. My father owned multiple nursing homes and land all around the Worcester, Massachusetts area. And one day everything was gone. Mm-hmm. Including the house we lived in. My grandparents had to build a duplex, which if I could see through this wall in front of me, I could see the duplex. Mm-hmm. It's that close. But
okay. And before all that happened, like, what did your mom do for a living at the time?
My mother was a nurse working in one of my father's main nursing homes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And was it multiple nursing homes or just like one big one, or?
Oh, he had like 3 or 4. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was a big deal back then.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And did you have any siblings or?
I had one sister, Laurie.
Yeah. Older, younger?
Years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, so he lost everything. And
wow.
We don't know why.
Even to this day, you still don't know why.
Yeah. Yep. I did a little bit of investigating about it, but all I found out was that it changed hands. Mm-hmm. I really didn't find anything else out.
Okay.
So I have no idea.
So that happens, 3 years old. What happens at that time? Does he get another job? Is he still successful? Like,
not really. My grandfather bought him a pizza joint where he could work. You know, he was a chef, so he could make pizzas. But I don't know what happened with that, but that didn't pan out either.
Okay. And I guess it's hard. You're just going by what I guess people have told you because you're 3 years old at this time.
Yeah.
When all this is happening. So you're basically going by history of what maybe uncles, aunts, grandfathers, friends of the family, everything are telling you. Like, do you still have a lot of those friends from back at that time that you can still relate to and talk to, or are they basically all gone now?
I have family and friends that were alive back then that I can talk to. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they tell me little things here and there. My sister remembers a lot more than I do for some reason.
How much older than you is she?
2 years.
Oh, 2 years. So she was 5 when this happened.
Yeah. Yep. yeah.
So this is something that's happening to you guys, and you're just children. I mean, you're just brought in this world. You're having a great time. I mean, before this happened, I mean, I'm sure you don't know, but does anybody tell you what? Were you a rambunctious kid at that time? Were you um, very
I was
recluse,
always
or
kind of off the wall,
okay?
even now.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So, okay, 3 years old, this all happens, and now
Hmm.
your dad's at a pizza place or whatever.
Yeah.
What's life going to be like now? 3 years old now. What are you doing?
Then we're living in that duplex,
Yeah.
and I'm at 5. I went to kindergarten, which was down the street from me. And then at that point, well, going on to 6 years old, my mother passed away of
Okay.
a drug and um, mixing pills and alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah, an
So was
overdose.
this maybe something that came about from what happened with your dad, or was she known in the past to be a person that did a lot of that stuff, or is this something that just came on because of the situation, or do you know?
I don't really know. I think it kind of came on because of the situation.
Like, of course, you're only 5 years old, so a
Yeah,
lot of people at our age, like I'm 50 now, and I don't remember a lot of stuff between 0 and 5 years old. I mean, you grow so fast, you don't remember. But
yeah,
do you
yeah.
have like recollections, memories of your mom back then, and what she was like before? No, so you basically didn't really know
Just
her at all.
yeah, just stories. What I
Yeah.
hear. Yeah, I really. One thing I do remember, and I think it's because people told me about it, but I remember it. When I was probably 5, I
Mhm.
fell off a swing backwards and hit my head on a rock, and I went running to my house, and my mother just she was doing dishes, and she thought I was playing the Incredible Hulk because I was screaming. I was screaming so loud, and then I ran into the house, and I'm like blood.
Oh, jeez. I can imagine.
And she just her jaw dropped, and
Yeah.
she just dropped the dishes that she was doing, and
Well, if
I
there's
went to
somebody you got to run to in the family, at least it's a nurse that you can run to when something like that happens.
right, yeah, you know,
And I'm not laughing because of that because you got hurt. It's just the whole situation and that.
no,
So
yeah, definitely,
your sister probably at this time remembers a little bit more about your mom. Maybe you get some stories from her because by this time she would have been around 7, going on 8. And at that time, I
yeah,
kind of remember some of that stuff going on, what was going on. She probably remembers your mom a little bit more, I'm sure.
yeah, she does, yeah, yeah, she like the other day she posted something about my father liking opera,
Okay.
and I was like, that's
Okay.
news to me.
Yeah. Because at this time, like your mom passes away, you're going on, you're 5, almost 6, and now it's just you, your sister, and your dad.
Mm.
And is he still at the pizza place at this time, or because
No,
I know that you moved around a lot?
yeah, he was selling like candies and stuff from somewhere. I forget where exactly it was that he was doing at that time. But
Okay.
then, probably 6 months or so after she died, he moved us to um, Southwick, Connecticut, and then he moved us to um, or Southwick, Mass, and then he moved us to Stafford Springs, Connecticut for a little while, and then he we kept going west.
Okay, because at that point you're still all over the east at that point, and now is this for jobs mostly? He's moving you around, or just for to get different jobs, or is it just a matter of just to start new again and again, or
Yeah, I think he was just looking for different jobs.
okay?
Yeah, yeah,
So possibly it could be like he got a job offer somewhere, he moves you all there, and then that doesn't pan out, then he moves another place. So I've got it in my like I'm looking at my notes here from my research on you, and it's like at that time it says is when you remember living at 10 homes within 11-year period.
yeah, yep.
So it's almost like what they call military brats. I don't know if that's a proper term, and if it is not, don't everybody write to me. But I
Didn't hear
mean,
about that
people
one.
that are in the military and they're moving all over the place, and they've had so
Yeah,
many
yep.
homes when they're kids. And I guess you're trying to. So it must have been hard for you in that 11 years just to make friends, because every time you're starting to make friends, probably you're up and moving again.
Yeah, and a lot of the places that I lived in, like I lived on a Navajo reservation, and I was the only white kid on the Navajo reservation,
Mm-hmm.
and I was treated as such,
Okay.
and
You were the minority in that
I was a
situation.
minority. Yeah, yep, yep. So,
So you say you were treated that way. So like, what kind of things were happening to you while you're on this?
well, for one, they talked about a legend called the Skinwalker.
Okay, yeah, and I've heard of skinwalkers, like in the
Yeah,
paranormal and stuff.
yep, yep, yep. And that the Skinwalkers were coming after me.
Oh, really? And at
Yeah,
this
yeah,
time, you're still between like 5 and 10 years old, probably at this
yeah.
time.
I was like 8, I think, at the
Yeah.
time. So
So
I'm
that's got to
like,
be scary,
yeah, yep, yep, yeah. There
especially if you
was,
know what a skinwalker is and supposed to be. So,
yeah, yep, yep. It was,
and
yeah. It's a creature that wears the skin on its back. So people that don't know,
yeah.
wears the skin of the victims on its back, and it's like a medicine man.
Hmm.
But then wears the skin on the back, and then has claws and can run up to 60 miles an hour. My father actually was talking to a cop once, and a cop swears that he had someone running next to the car,
Yeah.
a cop car, going like 60.
Wow. And I've heard of
And
like I can't remember where it is, but there is a place in the States. I forget the name of it, but they have like what's called Skinwalker Ranch, where there's supposed to
yeah,
be a lot of them there. So I know exactly what you're talking. I'm into
Arizona,
the
I think.
paranormal, so I love all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah,
um,
okay, yep, yep.
so that yeah, as an 8 year old, that's got to be scary. I remember I was terrified when I was a kid growing up because my brother, he's 3 years older than me. I have three brothers, but my one that's the oldest one, he's 3 years older than me, and we would go to my cousin's place, um, and they lived about an hour away from us, and he had at that time a big poster on his wall of the group Kiss, the music group Kiss.
Oh,
And at this time, this is the
my
original
favorite
Kiss with all the
bands.
makeup and with Gene Simmons, and he's got the demon face and spitting out blood. And I
Yep.
remember we were getting ready to go to sleep, and we had to sleep in that room. And my brother was always going to say, "Keep your eyes open because that guy's going to come and get you at night." And I was just a kid too, so I was terrified. So I can imagine with the Skinwalker thing as an 8 year old. I mean, you've already gone
Mm.
through this where 3 years old, your dad loses everything. You guys are starting to get all of a sudden your mom passes away and now it's just the three of you. You're moving all over the place. You go to a place where you have no friends really. They're just basically picking on you, and then they come out with a comment like that. I mean, you got to be at 8 years old. You got to think that life is just terrifying out there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep. And I was forced to become a blood brother when I was living out there too.
Okay.
I was invited over these kids' house, and one of them actually, traded blood with me
Mm-hmm.
with a handshake. He
Yeah.
cut me, and I think it was like a ritual to get me to be more like them. I don't know what, I don't know
Yeah.
exactly why, but I was in shock because of that. And
Yeah.
then my father moved us to Van Horn, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
which was the on the Mexico border,
Mm. Okay.
Texas, New Mexico.
Yeah.
Now they do a lot of NASA stuff out there,
Okay.
so it's more well known. But
Mm-hmm.
back then, it was like a one horse town,
Okay.
you know. And my father tried to get a food truck business going, like
Okay.
selling food out of the truck,
Sure.
but he didn't have the right permits for that, so that didn't work out. And then
Okay.
he went to be a gas attendant,
Okay.
and he died being a gas attendant.
Okay. And at this time, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, you're around 11 years old when your dad died.
Yes. Yep.
Now, was this from natural causes, or did something happen to him, or?
I remember I woke up that morning and I could see him. Like me and him shared we lived in a shack pretty much,
Okay.
and we shared a full size bed, me and my dad,
Okay.
and I could see him outside the bedroom door making coffee, and I had like this really eerie feeling come over me. So I got up, I hugged him, I said, I want to stay home from school today. I don't feel good.
Hmm.
And he um, he said, no, you already missed too much school because of all the moving around and whatnot. And then I went into my bathroom, shoved my finger down my throat so I would throw up
Hmm.
to prove
To
to
make it
him that
look like
I'm.
I was sick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then he let me stay home. And I remember we went to a store and I he passed out on me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were shopping and he passed out on me. And the store clerk knew him, gave him some orange juice because he was a diabetic. You know, he was coming to, and they gave him a little bit of orange juice, and then he felt better. So he drove home, and after that, my father passed out on me again, and I um I ran over to my neighbor's house,
Okay.
and my neighbor rushed him to the hospital, and that's where he died.
Mm, okay.
We got him there, and then he was laying on the gurney and holding my hand, and all of a sudden he was gone.
Okay. So you're 11 years old now. What about your sister? At this time, she would have been around 13. Were you two
She was
close
in
growing up
school.
with all this going on?
Uh, yeah,
Because you would think that sometimes when stuff like this trauma happens, especially at 3 years old and she's 5, and then all the way till when your dad passed away when you're 11 and she's 13. So that's 10 years there. That in that 10 years, all the stuff that you guys are going through, um, you would think it would bring you close together and want to protect each other and be like, you look at each other like, well, we only got the two of us. We got to rely on the two of us type of thing.
yeah. It was that way, but it was also like, you're the annoying little brother and you're the annoying bigger sister.
Yeah,
But yeah, but anybody else messed with either one of us, and we were on them like no one's
exactly.
business.
Yeah, my
You
daughters are
know,
like that. They're 6 years difference, but I know as much as the little one's a pest to her, like one's 21 now and the other's 15, but back when they were younger and going to high school and the other one's in elementary school, they're like, the older one would get mad at anybody going after her little sister. And the whole reasoning was not that, in her eyes, it wasn't that because her and her sister got along all the time and they were friends. It's like, nobody could pick up my sister but me, so don't you dare touch her type of thing.
exactly. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
So 11 years old, your dad passes
Yep.
away, basically right there with you there. Your sister's at
Yeah.
school. I guess she comes home, finds out. She must have been hysterical, I'm sure. What happens then?
I think the police went to her school and you know talked to her, asked her where our family's at and all that,
Hmm.
and all we had was family out here in Massachusetts.
Okay.
So luckily, because there was no internet or anything back then, um, my family's name is an uncommon name.
Hmm.
So we the cops called my great uncle Chet Dorenzo,
Okay.
and he um, he got a hold of him because he was the first Dorenzo in the Massachusetts phone book, and then he got a hold of my grandfather,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
my grandfather sent my uncle down to get us in Van Horn. I guess he was flown down, and then he had to drive like 300 miles to where we are because that was the nearest airport.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yep. And we stayed at that time at one of my sister's friends' houses. It was like her best friend at the time. So
Okay. Oops.
until my uncle came,
Oh, okay.
and the state and my uncle came at the same exact time, the same day. The state was like, we're taking them as into the system. and then
Hmm.
my uncle walks in like, "The hell you are,"
Yeah, exactly.
you
And if I'm
know?
mistaken, like he was the one reason that he did come and get you is he was talking to your grandfather and told him what kind of conditions you guys were in at the time.
Yeah, yep, yep. My
Because it wasn't very sanitary, I guess, or
no, no, it was like I said, it was a shack. Like my me and my father shared a bed, no
hmm
box spring. Our clothes were in cardboard boxes.
hmm
No, no dresses or anything.
okay,
Um, I think we had a little TV,
hmm
and that was on like a TV tray, like what you would put out in
yeah,
front of you to eat on.
okay,
Um, our I remember my bathroom floor was concrete.
hmm
No, it was just like
yeah,
really desolate. Yeah,
yeah. And I know you don't blame your dad. You said your dad did everything he could for you guys. I mean, that was rough times.
yeah,
Obviously, he's going through a lot.
yeah. I mean, I don't blame it at all. I
No,
don't blame him
exactly.
at all. He was 60 at the time,
Okay.
and he was like 30 years older than my mother.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he was really in rough shape too, physically.
Yeah.
And
No,
you know,
exactly. I can
yeah,
imagine.
yeah, he had a
So,
couple of strokes. He was diabetic. Yeah.
and then your uncle comes, picks you up, and then what happens there?
Then we come back to Massachusetts, and I move into the house that I'm actually in right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And that, what year is that roughly around? So you're like what, 11, 12 years old at that
I
time?
was 11 years old,
Okay.
so
Probably in the
40,
80s.
39 years ago. Yeah, the
Yeah.
80s.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just trying to paint a picture for everybody so they're following along there. So yeah, in the
yeah,
80s,
yeah,
your
yeah,
uncle picks you up, moves you back to where they are.
yeah. Um, and speaking about what I don't remember, when I was writing 10 Homes in 11 Years, I was consulting my sister, like, what do you remember about that time? And she told me that I didn't talk for like the first 6 months that I was home,
Oh,
back
really?
home here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to anybody, not even her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And my family out here really didn't know what to do with me.
Still
They,
really in shock, I guess, from everything going on.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, for all that to happen in my first 11 years was,
No, exactly.
yeah,
Mentally, a lot to take on from anybody, but let alone uh, somebody that young too.
yeah, yeah.
Now you move back there, and you're having trouble assimilating and getting things together. What about your sister? Is she sort of taking things a little bit easier? Is she able to get along a little bit better, or is she the same way where she's getting recluse and not talking? And
She was taking things a little better.
okay,
Yeah, yeah. She was, sorry. She
no, it's
was
fine.
really just better, for
Okay,
lack
yeah,
of a
she was
better
just
term.
she
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Everybody handles things differently in that. So then after the 6 months, you start talking again. Then what's going on? Because at that time, I think you're going through some mental issues yourself right then.
Yeah. Well, I found out that I had PTSD since I was 6. I mean,
But you
I
didn't find
was
that out till later, though, right?
undiagnosed. I didn't find out till later though,
Yeah,
but
but still.
I was dealing with that for the since I was a child, and I had anger issues.
Mhm.
I
You were
mentally,
pushing
I
people away,
just
I guess.
yeah, I was pushing people away like crazy. Like
Really.
anybody that tried to be a parental figure,
hmm
I didn't want in my life at all.
What about children around the area? Were you
Yeah.
making more friends? Were you going to school again at this time, or?
I started going to school again, and actually met some great friends that I even have to this day. One of them just passed away from cancer in August, but I you know we were like brothers growing up, all of us. Yeah, and that more or less replaced the
hmm
family
Yeah,
because
because
I was pushing my family away.
I'm looking at some of my research here, and I think one line just probably sums it up really good. Though I saw the line here. It said, "The only people who I let in was my group of friends, and anyone who tried to be my family was shunned, because you felt
Exactly.
like the whole world owed me for my loss."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's got to be a lot to take on for somebody that's only 11, 12, 13 years old.
Yeah. I was really just angry at the world,
Hmm.
and
And did this go on through your whole teen life, or
it
most of
did.
it? Or?
I mean, I wasn't. I'd say I wasn't as angry anymore, but I
Hmm.
still kind of felt like the world owed me,
Yeah.
and I did still have like PTSD
Yeah.
events. Like,
And how did this relate going to school? Like, did you have authority issues when it came to teachers and principals? Were you were you fine at school? It was just away from school, or did you struggle in school, not just learning wise, but just dealing with everything? And were you like a good student? Were you a hard student?
I got good conduct, but I didn't get good effort because I
Okay.
really didn't even
No.
worry about it. You know.
One of the ones that just sat in the back of the room, didn't speak,
Yeah.
didn't
Yep.
care.
Yep. Yep.
But you weren't like one of those ones that took life out on the teachers, or
No. No.
because I see people in school like that even nowadays. It's like not the same as when I was a kid. I mean, nowadays they're telling teachers off, and they're
Mm.
if they wanted like. I'm glad that that didn't happen. But so you're
Yeah.
going through. You get it. Do you graduate high school or?
I did. I graduated with D's. I think they just
Hey,
wanted me to get out. Yeah.
but you got that diploma. That means a lot, though.
Yeah. Yep. And
And
I even went back just a few years ago and I got my college degree and I graduated top of my class.
good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for you. So
So,
you're getting out. You get out of high school. Adulthood starting.
yep.
Um, what path do you go at that time?
Downward.
Oh, really? So it's still
Yeah.
going worse and worse.
Well, me and my friends would drink and smoke pot and smoke
Hmm.
cigarettes. But I had a cousin that I really idolized. You know, and he was the one with the big truck. He had a girl on each arm, money flowing
Hmm.
out of his pockets, and he was doing crack cocaine.
Okay.
And that's when I started doing crack cocaine. I was like, oh, if he's gonna do it, then why can't I? You
Yeah.
know.
So you started getting into the really heavy
And
stuff.
yeah, yep, yep. And I stopped hanging out with my friends as much because they weren't doing it.
Okay.
And then I was with him all the time, my cousin all the time, and doing stuff I shouldn't be doing.
Hmm.
And then it got so bad that my aunt told me to get out, get a job, and come back when I was
Okay.
20. Yeah,
So here
and
you are
it's
now,
went downhill
20
to
years
me.
old, and yeah, that's got to be rough. You're doing all this hard
Yeah,
stuff. Your aunt comes to you and says either get a job, clean up your life, or you're out of here because we're not taking it anymore.
yeah, yeah. And it was, I say it on every podcast. It was tough love that I needed
Yeah. That
you
was
know,
the awakening you needed, basically,
at
to
that
get your
time.
life back?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yep, yep.
So do you kind of look back now and say that's they always say that people come to you for a reason. People come in your life for a reason, that they could be your guardian angel that's on the earth or whatever. I'm not saying that if you believe in all that stuff, but do you think she is like that one person that was meant to come into your life at that time?
For that reason, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
by this time you'd been living with her for what? Probably about 8, 9 years, I guess,
yeah,
since about 11 years
yeah.
old.
Since yeah, yep, eight or
So
nine,
it's yeah,
nine
so about
years.
10
Yep,
years, and then she's finally saying, you know what, you're with a bad crowd. You guys are just gonna wind up being nothing, and you're just gonna either end up dead or in jail. So do something with your life, get a job, or I don't want to see it.
exactly. Yeah,
So that's
yep,
when you go and you enlist.
yes, yep. My father was in the military. My grandfather was everybody, and a lot of my, except for my recent cousins, my first cousins, all the male figures were in the military. So I figured why not,
Hmm.
and I went into the Army infantry, and I went into basic training, and that was like my detox
Okay.
from crack cocaine, and I quit drinking at the time and smoking cigarettes. You couldn't do
Hmm.
anything when you were in basic,
Okay.
and that turned out to be really, really tough,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Were you a big child, like a big person at that
No,
age?
I was skinny.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. I was tall, but I was skinny.
Okay.
And I was even skinnier because of the crack cocaine that I was
Oh,
doing.
I
I
can
think.
imagine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I can imagine
yeah,
that. So when you
yeah,
come home and you tell your aunt and your uncle, I joined the military, what were they like? What was their reaction? They're just expecting you to go get a good job and clean up, and all of a sudden you say, "I'm going to basic training." What
yeah.
were they thinking?
My aunt was like, "Well, I didn't mean for you to do that." I was like, "Well,
Don't go that drastic.
oh, I'm out. I'm out in a month."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And then what about your sister? When did you tell her?
I told her that same day, and
Okay.
she was okay with it. She actually, she thought that it was a good idea for me at the time
Okay. So
because
she was seeing you going down this hill,
yeah,
this
yeah,
slope.
yeah, 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 and then
So you're in
yeah,
basic training. You're at Fort Benning, Georgia, going through basic training.
yeah,
It's hard, but you get through it.
yeah. It was really hard. I mean, I there was some times where I just wanted to lay down and die, but I
And
had a couple of really good people, fellow soldiers, that were helping me along the way.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And what were you going in as? Like, what were you trying to be? Were you like
I
infantry? Were
was
you going?
I was going in as infantry. I ended up being mechanized infantry, driving
Okay.
Bradleys.
Yep.
Yeah,
So, and then how long were you? It says here you graduated basic training in AIT. What's AIT?
advanced infantry training.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And I live
I,
in a military town, and I didn't even know what that was.
yeah.
I'm not military. That I didn't shave my head on purpose like that. So, this is from being married with two daughters.
Uh,
That's why I have no hair. Um, so then you graduate. Where do they send you?
they sent me to Fort Carson, Colorado, where I
Okay.
spent most of the 3 years that I was enlisted. I went to Cuba for 6 months. We had Cubans and Haitians in camps.
Okay.
They were trying to get over to the U.S. Really awful situation. Um, and we couldn't just let them walk in. So, we put them into these camps and transitioned them into wherever they were going to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I still have a picture of a little kid that he lost his entire family on the ocean.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. People were going trying to come over here on nothing bigger than like a coffee table.
Oh, jeez.
Some of them. It was and
Just trying to get away from things.
yeah, yep. And the Navy was picking them up and
Yeah.
bringing them to us. Yeah,
And we all think that here we have it bad, whether it's here in Canada or we're in the U.S. And then you look at people like this that are, like you said, they're on little floaty things that are the size of a coffee table trying to make it across the ocean.
yeah, yeah, yep. We
Wow.
don't have it that bad.
No, it puts things in perspective in that, right? So,
Exactly. Yep.
and
Yep.
then I think you said it says here that you spent some time in Cuba too.
That was Cuba.
Oh, that was Cuba. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
I
Yep.
thought I was thinking Colorado still.
Oh
So this is when you're in
no.
Cuba. So it says here and then there's something about the tank explosion and riot control and stuff.
Riot control was in Cuba
Hmm.
because a lot of the Cubans and Haitians didn't want to be in camps,
Yeah.
in tents. So we had to control a couple of serious riots that were going on at the time.
Hmm.
Um, it was just a
An eye opener.
crappy situation. Yeah, yeah, an eye opener and a crappy situation altogether.
Yeah.
Sometimes literally because they were throwing feces and stuff at us because they
Oh,
didn't want
jeez.
us to be,
Hmm.
yeah, they didn't want us to be there. They didn't want to be there themselves. So,
Okay. And so
yeah,
it says you're in the military, what, 3 years? And then
three
you got
years,
out?
three
Okay.
years active, and I was in a tank explosion. That was in California.
Okay.
I was in the National Training Center in California, and we were test firing our Bradleys, firing at targets downrange, and we weren't allowed to bring our Bradleys. We had to use theirs.
Okay.
And when my gunner fired, the the gun exploded,
Okay.
and all I remember is hearing screaming, and the tank filled up with smoke, and the last thing I seen before the whole tank was up with smoke was the barrel flying downrange.
Wow.
Yeah, and I heard from people that I got out and I ran. Well, first I opened up the hatch in the back, and then I ran out and I got my crew out, and then I just sat there
Mm-hmm.
like shocked. But
Mm-hmm.
I say that's what I hear because I don't remember doing it.
No.
I don't remember anything for like the first or the next couple of days after.
Yeah. Well, the adrenaline going and just the shock of everything, I can imagine. I was in a car accident, probably, I think it was around 2001 or 1999. I can't remember the exact year. It was in that area, anyways. And I'm the same way. Like I have to go by what witnesses said they saw because I was driving in the highway and I went flying off the road and flipped a couple, all this stuff. And I don't. I remember the accident and I
Mm.
remember the aftermath and talking to everybody, but I don't remember the exact going through the motions type of thing because you're in shock and you don't realize what's going on. Your life all just passes through your by your face there.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yep, yep.
And especially with you, I mean, you're probably everything you've gone through in your life, and then you're sitting there, and it's like, oh, not again. Like now, something bad's happening to me again.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's not going through your mind at the time, but later on.
yeah. Later on, I was like Maverick and Top Gun. I didn't
Mm.
want to go back in the cockpit.
Yeah, no, I can
You
see
know,
that. I can see
and
that
yeah, I was like, nope.
because that's another form of PTSD right there. I mean,
Yeah, I was
because
like,
as
if,
soon as
if
you get
we're
in there, I'm sure it all comes back, and you're afraid to do anything because you don't want that to happen again.
yeah, I was like, if we're going anywhere, I am sitting in the back. That's it.
Exactly. So what gets to the point where you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm getting out of the military. Why didn't you prolong your stay in there?
That was one of the reasons.
Okay. Now,
And
did they discharge you, or did you just decide to leave?
I was close to my 3 years at that time anyway, and I was trying to decide if I was going to be up or not. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't be up. But
Okay.
I also just missed
Hmm.
home.
Okay.
You know,
I
I
can understand that.
yeah, when I was in Cuba, I missed one of the biggest Italian weddings that my family ever had.
Mm,
Yeah, I missed a lot of holidays and stuff like
yeah.
that when I was in the military.
Yeah.
So
I don't
yeah,
think people realize that. I mean, that they think it's all. Some people think it's all glam. You're out there with a gun and you get to shoot things and shoot. And other people are like, oh, you get to travel and see all these places, but they don't see. They're just seeing the stars and glitter lights there. They don't see all the stuff in the behind the scenes and everything you go through. And like you
yeah,
said, missing those things with family, missing births of babies and missing parties, like you said, and big weddings and just spending time. Christmases sometimes not being able to spend Christmas at home because you're overseas somewhere in a
yeah,
riot or something. So I mean,
yeah. I actually
it's
spent
rough.
Christmas in Cuba.
Oh, did
I
you? There you go.
swam in the ocean on Christmas Day
Oh, jeez. Trying to swim home for
just to say,
Christmas.
just to say I could do it.
So you get out of the military. What happens to Charles now? He's not military anymore. He's graduated school. What happens now?
I did a couple of odd jobs. Like worked in a store,
Okay.
like a Sears or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. And then I actually ran a security company for a little bit, couple years.
Okay. Are you
But
living on your own at this time, or are you back at your uncle's
I was
place and aunt's
back at
place? Or
my
okay.
uncle and aunt's place. Yeah.
Okay.
Then a couple years after that, I I moved out and I moved to a friend's house. And then my uncle got really sick.
Okay.
My grandfather was sick.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was working in a warehouse with my friend.
Okay.
And I got a call one day to come home, and I just told my friend, he drove us in that morning. I'm like, I need the keys. You need to find your own ride home.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I told him, he was just like, here, something's going on, but here.
Exactly. How old are you roughly around this time? Is this mid 20s, late early 30s, or
I was like 20, around 20. No, I was
no?
around 30
It's
rather. I'm sorry.
okay,
Yeah,
around 30. Okay, so
yeah,
so
yeah,
now you're going, and this is a person that's basically raised you since you were 11 years old for like 20. This is basically your father figure. It's almost like somebody who was
yeah,
like your father, basically.
yeah, yeah. And part of the reason why I fell into a really dark depression was because I realized that
Mm-hmm.
that day,
Okay.
I was like, I just lost my father all over again.
Exactly. No, and I can see that.
And then my
Yeah.
grandfather died around the same time. So it was like I lost,
It was like a month apart, wasn't it?
yeah, yep, yep. I lost both of them. And then I had a chance, like tell him,
No, exactly. Thank you.
thank you. Yeah.
I'm sure he knew, of course. And now, is he from your mom's side or your dad's side?
He was from my mother's side, but he
Okay.
wasn't like my blood uncle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. My aunt was my mother's sister.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And were they like your mom's age bracket, or were they more like your dad's? Because you said your dad was like 30 years older. So was
Yeah,
he in,
they were my
was
mother's age.
okay? So he wasn't
Yeah,
like the 60s or anything like that at
no,
that time. So
no.
okay. So he dies a young man. Your
Yeah,
grandfather passes away. Now you go in this big depression.
yeah, yep. In a really dark depression, and I was actually like carving on myself with a razor
Okay.
blade.
Okay.
Just to feel something other than what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And people ask me why I didn't go back to drugging and drinking, and I really have no answer for you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That was basically like your drug because I know people that were cutters, and
Yeah,
they said it releases some endorphins. It helped them feel better because it was a different pain than what they were going through mentally, and that's like your
exactly.
drug basically.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Still not healthy, of course, but it's like
No,
it is. It's like so. What are you like now around people at this time? Like, are you
I
going
was
just
shying
hiding
away
away,
from
or
it. Yeah, I was living with my friend and his family,
okay?
but I was like shying away from everything and just doing stuff to get people to go away from me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually it got so bad that I ended up trying to kill myself by taking a bottle of sleeping pills,
Okay.
and um, I wrote the words "F you world" on my arm.
You carved
So
it in, or you wrote it on yourself?
I carved it in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So you could see it all in blood
Mm-hmm.
when I was laying there on their couch, and I just um, you know took a bottle of sleeping pills and went to
Yeah.
sleep. And my my friends found me a few hours later
Okay.
and rushed me to the or brought paramedics there, called the paramedics to rush me to the
Mhm.
hospital.
Okay.
And I got my stomach pumped, and you know the
How
doctor
close
was
was it before they got there that if it would have been like much longer, you never
The
would have made it.
doctors were like, "I'm surprised that he's still going."
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
So maybe something inside you still had that will to stay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you have what they call that out of body experience at that time, or
I don't remember that, to be honest with you.
okay,
Yeah, I just remember going to sleep and waking up. I woke up and the paramedics were there and there was an officer there and I like ran downstairs into the cellar
mm-hmm.
and then I don't even know how I did that because I was so drugged.
Mm-hmm.
And then they picked me up and carried me out on a gurney.
Okay,
Yeah, and I was sent to the hospital, and then that's when I went into a place called Brockton, VA,
okay,
and that was a psych ward.
okay. Is this
Yeah,
attached to the hospital, or is this a separate place altogether?
it's a separate place altogether.
Okay,
Yeah,
because
that
I know
that
there's some that they have them in the hospitals too, but
yeah, this hospital does,
okay,
but because I'm a veteran, they probably send me there
yeah,
because it was a VA.
exactly. So you went to a special
Yeah,
hospital that was dealt with stuff like
yeah, yeah,
mental issues.
yeah, yeah,
Is your
and
aunt alive still at this time, or
yeah, oh yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah, and I remember they called her and she was like, I don't know anything about what's going on. And, she was just like, I don't want to know at that point.
Well, she's probably going through trauma herself because her husband passed away,
Yeah, yeah,
and the
yeah.
grandfather is this grandfather as in
Her
her
father.
dad. Okay, so she
Yeah.
just lost two of them in 1 month, and now somebody who's like a son to
Now
her is
yeah,
now
yeah,
try, gone through that.
yeah. She's like, yeah, she couldn't deal with it at that time. And I don't blame her for that either.
Yep. Now, are
You
you and your
know,
sister still close at that time, or
she was living in Colorado and I was back here.
okay?
Yeah.
So, and how did she find out?
She found out by my
Maybe your aunt.
family. She must
Okay.
have, yeah, I actually don't know, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
And did she come? Did she come to see her, or just at least contact you and find out what was going on, or at this time are
Um,
you guys kind of estranged a little bit at that time, or are you guys still pretty close and talk?
we talked every once in a while, but
Hmm.
we weren't like that close anymore
Okay.
at that time.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm sure she was worried still.
No, yeah, I'm sure. And
So
then
you're at.
huh?
I'm sorry. No, I was gonna say you're at Brockton, and then take us from
Yes,
there.
I'm at Brockton. And then Brockton sent me to a shelter in Boston, not knowing that the shelter in Boston was full at the time. So when I got there, they were like, "There's no room." So I was standing outside that door with nowhere to go.
Oh, jeez.
And they said, there's a couple of shelters here and there. Down the street, there's one, and down the street, you had to like smuggle a knife in and sleep with it under your pillow. The stories you
Yeah.
heard.
Oh, I can
Yeah,
imagine. So here's a
yeah,
guy that almost takes his own life. He's sent to a mental hospital because of all this, and then they just basically put you out on the street and say, "Okay, now you got to fend for yourself."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I did for a few weeks, and then I got into that shelter,
Okay.
and then I started like getting my life back together.
Hmm. But
I
take me back before you got into shelter. You said for a few weeks you made it through, but where were you staying in those couple weeks before the shelter? Were you just finding places to sleep in the gutters, or
exactly. I slept in ATM booths. I still had my ATM card, so I can open those
Mhm.
and sleep in there. I sometimes it was an alleyway. It was wherever more of the homeless people were sleeping,
Okay.
so I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
And
But what made
some
you
of
go to the
them,
shelter? Like you just had enough of that, or did you basically just happen to be passing by and just happen to wander in or check it out, or you just
I
had
I
enough?
I went in. Well, I had an off, yeah, but I went in. I'm like, look, I need a bed,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when they did have a couple of openings, and they let me go in there.
Okay.
But
And then you
yeah,
start getting your life together. What's happening while you're at the shelter? How long were you at the shelter for?
I was at that shelter for I think like 3 months or so,
Okay.
and they made me go to the VA to get medical help and stuff like
Okay.
that, and that's when I found out that I had PTSD.
Okay. And you
And
found out it happened since you were 3 years old, 5 years old, whatever, when
yeah,
your mom
yeah,
passed away.
yeah, 6 year, 5, 6 when my mother
Okay.
passed away. Yeah, and after that, I just clicked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, this is what I have. This is what you know, I can do to help myself.
Mm-hmm.
And what really helped me was being in that environment and seeing other veterans that were suffering. It showed me that I wasn't alone.
Mm-hmm.
I call that my crucible,
Okay.
because a crucible is something that you either survive or you become the stronger for, or you
Mm-hmm.
die or you become the stronger for surviving it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm sure at this time you're thinking, you know what? With everything I've been through since I've been 5 years old, basically, I've went through shit and back, basically, for a better term, and
yeah,
I'm still here. I've tried everything. I even try. I went in the military. I made it through that. I made not just basic training, but going through all the stuff you went through with the riots and being in all war zone type stuff. And then you come back, and then you try and kill yourself. And at the same time, that still doesn't take you out. It's like by this time you're thinking, you know what? There's a reason why I'm supposed to be still be here, because no matter what's happened in my life, I'm still here. So it's time that I buck up and
yeah,
change.
exactly. Yep, yep. And I just I started a nonprofit which was designed to help veterans and their families of veterans that are coming back from um, Afghanistan and Iraq, who
Mm-hmm.
had really bad PTSD, and I was going to be helping them out, where
Mm-hmm.
bringing giving them the help they needed, the veteran, and there was a lot of domestic violence going on at that time.
Okay.
So my plan was to put the family in like a protective custody
Mm-hmm.
while I'm helping out the veteran,
Okay.
and that didn't take off because I didn't realize at the time, but for a nonprofit in United States, you have to be pretty much self sufficient for the first 5 years,
Okay.
and that kind of organization couldn't be self sufficient for the first 5 years.
Okay.
So after that, that turned into me running programs for different places, different veteran facilities, and homeless facilities on PTSD and on positive thinking that I learned. This is going on for 5 years or more.
Yeah.
That I was in shelters learning everything that I learned, and I
Mm-hmm.
went to school for criminal justice, and I was a trained PI at the time. So I developed my first 3 books as programs to help out these organizations, and that was also um, nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to make a choice at the time because my son was born.
Okay.
Either
Yep.
you know help him and be a father, or do what I got to do with
Mm-hmm.
them with the programs. So I said I'm gonna put the information out there, and I made them into books,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I became a writer.
Okay. And I think the one thing that it wasn't mentioned in that, and but you mentioned it just a second ago, is your son was born. So with
Yes.
all the stuff that's happened in all your life and all that stuff, you were still at that point where you were able to become a dad and things like
Hmm.
that. I mean, that probably opened your eyes a lot too.
Yeah, it's like I tell people, my suicide attempt was 20 years ago.
Hmm.
My son is 10 now.
Yep.
You do the math.
Yep.
If I
Succeeded.
succeeded back then in the one thing I'm glad I failed in, then he wouldn't be here. I
Hmm.
wouldn't be here asking if the butler did it.
Yep.
I wouldn't be a seven-time author. You know,
That's
all,
right.
all, all this, stuff that's going on in my life that wouldn't be,
Exactly.
so I always tell people, hang on, just get help. And,
Yeah. Well, we had a
so,
guest on last month, Valerie J. Walsh, and that was one thing because her mom died of suicide also, and that's the one thing that she says is she always tells people it's not committed suicide, it's death to suicide, because you don't go out there to commit this. It's obviously a sickness, a mental health. You wouldn't personally just think you're going to go and do that. It's something that just comes on because of the mental health and that. So it was death to suicide. You were a survivor of suicide attempt. That's the way I look at it. Um,
right, right.
and because you didn't commit it, it was your sickness. You attempted it, but you didn't succeed. And luckily you didn't, because you wouldn't be here today with us right now to share your story with everybody. At the same time, like you said, your son wouldn't be born. You probably wouldn't have met your son's mom,
Yeah,
because
no,
I don't know if you knew her at that time
no, I
that it
didn't.
happened. No.
No.
So you met her long after. So, I mean,
Yeah,
all these good things. Now, like you said, you're a 7-time author. I have here also a certified peer support specialist. You're
yep,
helping other people with all their problems. They wouldn't have you here to help them if you would
yeah,
have succeeded. So we're glad you didn't succeed.
yeah. Graduated top of my class in human services, all
Awesome.
that. Yeah, yep,
No, definitely.
yep.
And I love this one line you put here. It says, someone once told me nothing hits harder than life. And I agree with you. That is so true.
Yeah, yep,
Life will kick you in the pants.
yep,
And
definitely.
it's not how you stayed down, it's what you did to get back up and get back in the race again that actually defines who you are, I think.
Yeah, yep. There's a video out there that a podcast, and we called it God's guinea pig,
Hmm.
because that's how I felt when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like,
And I could
okay,
see
well,
where you
let's
get that.
see if he'll survive this. Let's see if
Yep.
he'll survive this. And I was just like, okay, what now?
Yeah. And I guess like 10 years ago, that's when God said, you know what? No matter what I throw at him, he's not giving up. So let's now start giving him things that he can do to help other people now. And maybe
Yeah, yeah,
he said, you know what? Enough's enough. Let's now
yeah,
boost the guy up. So,
yeah.
so give us a little bit more about what you're doing these days now, and tell us about your books and things like that. And
All right. I work for a agency called Aware Recovery Care,
okay,
and what that is, it's an IHAT program, in-home addiction treatment. And what we do is we go to different, you know, houses that our clients have. I have I have 21 clients, something like that. And I go visit them like an hour at a time, and I
hmm,
see how they're doing in their recovery, and I give them tips on, how to get through, their
hmm,
recovery and whatever bad days they're having,
sure.
and
I'm sure that helps them, because it's not just having somebody there, but somebody that knows what they're going through.
yeah, yep, yep. And that's what people love about us, is that 90% of us are in recovery,
Hmm.
you know, and so they always say that I hear a lot that you guys know what you're doing because you've been there.
Yeah.
You know, I heard that just yesterday from a client, and yeah, it's just a great feeling, because same reason I do this, because it helps me as much as others.
Yeah, no,
You
definitely. I'm
know,
sure it
to talk
does.
about my story. Yeah, yeah.
No, and tell us more about your books too.
I have 7 books out there, and I am working on not republishing, but like revamping all the books. I ran into a really great artist who I sat down and talked to, and he made all my covers over again.
Okay.
So what I'm doing now is I'm adding even more information into the books. Like my book on loss, I just finished and republished. We submitted that into KDP Amazon, and that one's about loss. But it's got now I just put even more information, and I put a letter that I wrote to my friend and that died of cancer in August.
Okay.
I put that in the back of the book, and all my books they show people that they're not alone,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe in healing from within, not
Mm-hmm.
healing from like I always bring up the veteran with the prosthetic limb.
Okay.
You know, they don't want to just get the limb and be sent on their way.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know that they're going to have just as good of a life
Yeah.
that they had before, and that comes from inside. That comes from healing inside,
Mm-hmm.
your heart and your soul and all that. I really believe in like the 8 dimensions of wellness, soul wellness, emotional wellness, all that. And my books are on PTSD, on addiction recovery. I have one on um, positive thinking, one
Mm-hmm.
on bettering your life. Like I I thought of about Robin Williams and people like that died of suicide.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I wrote that book because money doesn't bring you what you want.
No, definitely.
It's the perspectives on finding success.
No, I agree.
Yeah, but it's about growing inside and about
Mm-hmm.
being a better person. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
And I've got your books up there on the screen right now. If
Yep.
anybody
See
wants to, so can they get it from your website or?
that? Everything can be on lifelongexperience.net.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can
And I'll
get
put that on the comment section after the podcast. I'll put that in the comments there so people can go to your website and
uh,
it's I mean I'm just amazed that most people that went through what you went through, I wouldn't be talking to them right now. But luckily, you are still here, and I think you have a lot of ways to show and inspire. And that, do you do speaking engagements too, or are you just mostly
I was doing them before COVID,
okay?
and right now I'm just so busy with aware recovery and podcasting,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to be buying a house in the spring. I've just got so much on my plate that I am not going out and doing any public speaking right now. But I was just talking with a friend of mine today that I was saying if I get to the point where I work because I want to
Mm-hmm.
and not because I have to,
Yep.
then I'm going to do less work that I have to worry about getting paid for
Mm-hmm.
and do more, like public speaking and stuff like that.
Good
Because
for you.
that's what I really wanted. I would love to be able to
Yep.
just do that all day.
And that's why I started this podcast. Is because
Yeah,
um, I've always tried to be the positive person. You talk to anybody in my town here or back home, I'm always the one. Everybody's telling me I'm always smiling. I'm always this. I mean, sure, we go through our downtimes. I try and keep that to myself. You don't try and show that in public, but we all have
right,
our
right.
downtimes. But to me, I look at people like yourself and the past guests that I've had on the show here, and I'm like, you know what, with what everything you guys have all gone through, what I've gone through growing up in life, I have no reason to complain. So I
Yeah,
and I like to see, and in the last 2 years alone, that's 3 years, sorry, since March of 2020 when everything shut down and the whole world basically shut down. The mental health issues that people, if they didn't have mental health issues before, it just skyrocketed it, and people who didn't
yeah,
think they had it now are finding that they do have it. And so
yeah,
I'm hoping the show like this can show people that they're not alone, that everything that they're going through, somebody else has gone through part of that or some of that. And if I can help one person with this show to make life better for themselves, or to sort of seek the help that they need if they are looking for help, they just got to reach out. They just got to speak and just tell people, I need some
yeah,
help. And it's the hardest thing to do. I'm sure
yeah,
you'll be the first one to say that it's not easy to ask for help when you're going through stuff like
yeah.
that.
I would have rather take my own life at that time than ask for
Yep.
help.
But I'm glad you
But
did.
yeah.
And so we're coming to the end of the show. Do you have anything you'd like to add to the show? Anything you'd like to say? Anything about what you're doing now? If anything that you want to tell anybody that's listening out there, by all means, anything you want to say.
Well, if you're battling addiction and you're in United States, look and see if we are aware of recovery care, and look if there is any agencies in your state, because we're in like 12 different states,
Mm-hmm.
and we have uh, just a phenomenal rating. Better than AA, better than NA, better than any of the detoxes or anything around us. We have a better track record, and I'm not putting any of the other ones down.
No, no.
I'm just saying that you know, Aware Recovery Care has better stats,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just an amazing place.
And even if it's not aware that, like you said, the aware recovery care, if they don't have one of those, I'm sure there's some sort of an agency or some sort of a group, or even just your local hospital. Just reach out to
Oh
them,
yeah,
just
yeah,
a local normal hospital, and say, listen, I need help. Who do you recommend? Because they might have a mental health ward in there, or at least they have doctors, psychiatrists that can talk to you and get you to the right help that you need. I'm sure.
yeah,
You just got to
definitely.
say, I need help, or you can just call
Yeah,
911.
yeah,
I
yep.
know it's meant for emergencies, but sometimes mental health is an emergency to me, in my view. I mean, if you're at that point where you were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, sorry, if 20 years ago, if I'm sure if you would have called 911, they would have sent somebody out there for you.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So
Yeah,
they just got to
and
reach out.
now there's I forget the number now. There's a hotline out there now
Hmm.
that you can call. It's like 968, or I forget what it is. It's like 911, but it's
Exactly. But
three
for that
different
issue, yeah,
numbers for for like a suicide hotline,
yeah,
or just to talk to somebody.
exactly.
And yeah, like you said, go to the hospital.
Yeah, we
Even
have
if
one
you have
here.
to
It's called the
talk to
Robbie
your
Dean Center, and that's what it's meant for. It's not just children, anybody that's going through mental issues and they want to talk. You can call them any time of day, 24 hours a day, and they'll talk to you.
yeah, yeah. Even
So,
like you said, the hospital, or that's what I tell a lot of ex clients. Like, go into the hospital, see
mhm.
what they can do to help you. That's got to be your first step.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can't get to the hospital and you don't know what to do and you don't have the right numbers, call 911. I'm sure they'll lead you to the right, or they'll just to connect you even to the right
Yeah,
place.
yep,
Just say,
yep,
listen, I'm having a rough time. I'm afraid I might do something to myself. I need to talk to somebody. I'm sure they would put you connect you to the right people. So
oh yeah,
please get out there and get the help. But I'm glad to see that things are working out well for you. Things are going up. You're doing well, I see. And how's your little boy doing
thank you.
there?
Oh, he's doing great. Yeah,
Yeah,
and my stepdaughter too.
very cool. Oh, that's
Also,
adorable. No,
yeah,
I'm happy for you.
I
See,
still consider her my daughter, even though that we've been
no, exactly.
separated for like 10 years.
No. Hey, that's your daughter. She's in your heart, so that's what
Oh yeah,
matters.
yep.
And your sister's doing well.
Oh yeah, yep,
Awesome.
yep.
Well,
She's living in Virginia.
Good. Well, I'm glad to see things are on the ups for you now. I mean, you went through a rough time, but you're proof that you can change and you can make things better. And I think what I love about your story is you just didn't make things better for you, but you're now turned around and you're trying to make things better for other people. And I think that's just what it's all about. So
Yeah,
I appreciate you coming and telling your story. I know it's not an easy story to tell people, but it's stories that people need to hear sometimes to know that they are going, what they're going through, they're not alone. And I appreciate you throwing out all your heart out there because I know people would love hearing it. So thank you very much for being here.
I appreciate John. Thank you, John.
No,
It's not easy, like you said, but
no,
it's
one day at a time.
yeah, and I come to terms with this is why I'm here.
Hmm.
I'm here to help others, and I'm here to share my story, and I'm here to better my life first and other people's lives second.
Hmm. No, exactly. But
You know,
because you can't help others if you don't help yourself, and I can see you
exactly.
doing that,
Yeah.
and it's just an honor to meet you and to be able to get you on here. And I know that from this day forward, we've got each other on our different, we got each other's phone numbers and everything. And the way I look at it is I've just met a new friend too, and I know that we'll be friends for a long time too. I can't see why we won't be. So we'll keep
Oh
in
yeah,
touch for sure.
most
So
definitely. Yeah,
and hope
yeah.
maybe in a little while, like once we get more shows in, and maybe down the road, I can bring you back on, and we could do an update or something like that, and see how things are going.
Yeah, when I get my house, I can do a virtual
Oh, there you
tour.
go. That'd be awesome. Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. And to all of you out there, I hope you had a great time there. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you were motivated. As we say, we try and empower, motivate, and inspire you to be the best that you can be and have the best life that you can. And hopefully this helped you. So until next time, be good, show empathy, and remember, if anybody asks, say the butler did it.